When Apple released Apple Silicon back in 2020, little think it would go on to revolutionize the PC industry. Today, we know these chips are some of the best around, but however, we're looking at the MacBook Air with M1, the first and weakest device using Apple Silicon. Released 5 years ago last month, we'll be looking at how it holds up with gaming, something that's continued to be the Mac's weak point. This base model comes with 4 performance and 4 efficiency cores, a 7-core GPU, and 8 GB of unified memory, and a fanless design, and marked a significant upgrade over its Intel predecessor for performance. Upgrades to 16 GB of memory and an 8 GPU core variant were available, but the one I have is far by the most common spec you will find nowadays. So I've done some synthetic and real-world gaming benchmarks to find out how this MacBook Air is holding up 5 years on. So I'll be doing 2 popular tests for some synthetic numbers, and this will help give us a feel for the MacBook Air's performance compared to other Macs, as well as other GPUs. So first up, looking at 3DMark SolarBay, we managed 5721, which, yeah, it's certainly showing its age in this test. It's crazy to see how much better the GPU has gotten in these M chips over even the last 2 generations. When it comes to how it compares to GPUs in general, well, it had 363 in a Still Nomad test according to 3DMark's website, and I would have used this test instead, but I couldn't get it to run without freezing, which I assume could be down to the lack of memory. Regardless, this is the equivalent of a GTX 970, apparently, which sure, it could be given the right game perhaps, but more on that later. Geekbench 6 was a similar story. In the OpenCL test, we scored 19,433, which is, oh surprise, the same as a GTX 970M? I think it should be clear it's not particularly strong in raw graphical power, this M1. But of course, these are synthetic numbers, and they only tell part of the story, so now it's time to see how it performs on some popular titles, older and newer. This won't be a massive list, unfortunately, as I can't be spending money on games to test right now, and have done tests with games I already got, or ones that are free, but at least if you were to buy the paid games I'm showing, they won't cost much. So moving on to the gaming benchmarks, and first off is Civ 5, and yes, this is one of those older titles, but it does run natively on Mac, albeit through Rosetta 2, translating x86 instructions to ARM, and it shows. In 720p, we are scraping 30 FPS on a good day, and by the time you get to the late game, the M1 really struggles, hitting an average of 12 to 18 FPS. It's playable, but the constant textures trying to load in just makes this a real miserable experience. Next up, for something a bit better, we're gonna look at League of Legends, and in fact, this is doing really well. In 1440p, we're getting 160 to 100 FPS, and I know this is a native game and it isn't very intensive, but this is really good performance. And if you like League of Legends, then you should just stick with the M series chips. They'll do you well. Next up is something slightly more impressive, and that's Team Fortress 2 playing through Crossover, which is a emulation layer program converting x86 instructions through Wine to ARM, and this has gotten better. See, quite a few years ago, this would not play on Mac, and since the 64-bit update for Team Fortress 2 about a year or so ago, the performance of this has really increased. We're looking at 60 to 160 FPS depending on the scene. And you might be wondering why I can't give you an exact number, including 1% and 0.1% lows. And that's because I just could not get a FPS counter to work on macOS. There is just not really any MSI afterburner equivalent, and what did exist did not work. So unfortunately, we're having to rely on what I perceive to be is the average and the range based on the FPS counter overlays I can get through either Steam or built into the game. So unfortunately, that's the best I can do, but it will still give you an idea of what you could expect. Okay, moving on to a more recent title, we have Minecraft 121.10, which is the latest version as recording of this video. And without mods, we're getting between 90 and 140 FPS, which is really good considering the age of this device and only 8 gigabytes of RAM. So Minecraft will default to 4 gigabytes of RAM for graphics on Minecraft, and it actually holds up really well. But because Minecraft is so customizable, we actually have got a lot of options. And of course, this is running in Java, so it's using OpenCL. So how about if we use something like Vulkan? And Vulkan is a lot better at contacting the bare metal of Apple Silicon. And when you install the mod pack, which is this one here, it's a popular mod pack. I use this through the Prism launcher. Great launcher, by the way. If you like Minecraft mods, use this launcher. It's really good. Minecraft with Vulkan and this mod pack here, it's on 121.5, so it's still the latest version. It is incredible. As you can see here, we're getting up to 300, even 300 plus FPS, and the performance is incredible. Now, of course, this is just a little test world. There isn't a bunch of entities and, lots of assets on screen, but it gives you an idea, and you can always lock this to 120 FPS, and it will be a very, very pleasant experience. And of course, you can add mods on top of this. So if you're a modded Minecraft fan, this is going to be the one for you. Get this with the Vulkan mods, and you're going to have a good time.
Now, if you want to play something that isn't supported either through crossover or because of macOS, something like, I don't know, Fortnite that uses kernel anti-cheats, really you can only cloud game. So for this last test, we're just seeing how NVIDIA's cloud gaming app works. On the M1, I've got it plugged into an Ethernet through USB-C. So you definitely don't want to be using this service through Wi-Fi, because it's just not gonna cut it latency wise. I'm only using NVIDIA's free plan, but we're actually seeing a respectable 60 FPS, and yes, it's low quality, but it's not too bad. Although towards the end of the test, it was actually giving me a very bad game score. I think this is just because I'm on the free plan, and the better plans have a better GPU, but this will depend on how good your internet is. As long as you have a USB-C Ethernet connection with the M1 MacBook Air, it should be okay, but I probably would upgrade to the paid NVIDIA plan or some other cloud service, but it definitely can pull it off. It definitely has the performance for that, so that might be an option for games that aren't supported. So, can it game? Well, yes, but it depends. I guess the key word here is inconsistency. It can do well in certain titles where it's optimized for the platform, but the lack of memory and compute power can really hurt it in titles where there is no optimization. That being said, it is still a great device, and it does have awesome battery life, and they are now dirt cheap on places like eBay. So I still think there's some life left in the M1 MacBook Air, maybe 1 to 2 more years. And if you do want to pick one up, I would say pick one up with 16 gigabytes and no less, because the 8 gigabyte version just, in my opinion, isn't cutting it anymore. So that's been my quick look at the M1 MacBook Air and its gaming performance 5 years on. And I thank you so much for watching. This is my first video on this channel, and I hope to just be getting started. So if you leave me any feedback you might have, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you, and goodbye.